Okay, in this example, we want to take a look at how we can move a component a little bit more precisely and set that as its default position. So if you notice my assembly feature manager, I've got a screwdriver inserted into this assembly that's currently not visible. Let's turn that on. Now what happened here is when we inserted that screwdriver, it came into its default orientation and maybe just not a very logical position for our default orientation. We want to move that so that it's perhaps aligned with one of these screws over here. So to do this, first of all, you'll want to select as a part, not an assembly. And the way you tell the difference there is when I select on this screwdriver, if it highlights all in blue, that's an assembly select. We want to actually select all of the parts as a group. So just uncheck or depress the assembly selection mode so that turns off. Now when I highlight that, you'll just see all the parts selected. On your screen, it may show up as an orange color, depends on your settings. But here I know the difference between an assembly select versus a part select when it's not showing up as blue. You may want to just position the component sort of by eyeball first, just rotate it and translate it sort of in the position that you want using the on-screen handles. And this is sort of in the ballpark, but it's not quite right. I want that lined up exactly with this screw. Well, the way that we're going to do that is to take advantage of the Align toolbar, on the Transform toolbar rather, we'll use the Align command. And this is similar to what you might do with SOLIDWORKS using mates. Point to point, line or axis to line or axis, and so on. These are basically going to take the place of your coincident and concentric type mates. So to begin, I'll select the top level part container, and let's just make sure that neither our translate or rotate tools are turned on. With the part selected at the top level like so, I'll now choose the Align toolbar and say line or axis to line or axis. The first selection is to choose a line or axis on the part that I want to move. As I hover over the screwdriver, you'll see various edges, circular edges, linear edges, and so on, are highlighted. Any of these circular edges will do. I'll pick this one, and now I want to pick on the second component a circular edge or axis. As you hover over various circular edges, you'll see a preview of that part snapping into place. So I'll just hover over this screw, and you can see that's the proper alignment. Now, along the axis, I still need to translate that component. Making sure that the screwdriver, all the parts of the screwdriver are still selected, I'll right-click and grab my translate handles. And in this case, it's just the blue axis that I want to drag that out along, and that'll work. But if for some reason you wanted to translate along some different edge or axis, remember you can always hold down the Alt key, which enables curve detection, and that means it lets you pick a different orientation or axis from which to translate. So that's something that's a nice little trick that you can always translate or rotate about any edge or axis. So if you're happy with this position, just once again make sure that all the components are selected, and then on the Properties tab, just hit Set as Neutral Properties. And now that's the new default position for that screwdriver. So if for some reason you were to maybe set up an alternate position, you can quickly return to that default position just by choosing Restore Neutral Position, and that puts it back in its home state. So that's a very slick way you can take advantage of the Align tools and precisely position a component and set its default position.